Greetings and welcome to Pop's Collection. I'm Ron Tweedy, joining me as Pops, and today we saw Thor, Love and Thunder, and we're here to talk about it.
Hello, everybody. Yes, we are. Grab your coffee for some maybe stimulating conversation. We'll discuss it. I think there should probably be different names for it, but we'll just go with Love and Thunder for now.
Okay.
And, as we get into it. So this is the same director, Watiti, right? Or
Yep.
Watiki. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but
Yep.
he actually, this is definitely not not Ragnarok.
Right.
Not even close, but it did have its moments. I'm going to say there were a few moments in there that were pretty funny. There was some good special effects. One thing I do have to say for me, that was probably Christian Bale's best performance that I've seen him in. I think he did a marvelous job as Gore is the villain's name. Although really wasn't really a villain,
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let's keep it spoiler free, at least for the first 5 minutes or so.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll try my best, but it's going to be difficult.
I do agree with you that the highlight of the film is Christian Bale's performance. He does do a good job, and he is the villain. We'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, as we get into the story. But yeah, I agree. That is definitely the best part of the film.
Yes, and the funny part for me was that I got so absorbed in his character that it was like halfway through the movie, and I said, "Wow, that's Christian Bale." It's like I just he just portrayed that part so well. Okay, well, if we're going to go spoiler free, let's talk about the special effects. What did you feel about them?
I thought they were all good. I didn't see I don't have a negative thing to say about any of the special effects. I think they were, all competently done.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought the early one was a little different.
Okay.
But we'll get into that once we get into spoiler free or unspoiler free stuff. But I thought that like the Shadow Realm was spectacular, the way they did that.
Yep.
And the way they mixed black and white with color was really, really good.
Yeah, agreed.
I thought for the most part, all the actors, I love seeing Natalie Portman again. Not quite sure what we can say about her role in this. I got mixed feelings about it, but I think that the characters were pretty much done well. What do you feel the same way or
no?
Okay, good. Well, good. Then let's talk about that a second.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously, I've had a lot to say in past episodes about Thor, his character arc, and everything. And, Thor being probably my favorite MCU character of all time. Very, very much not happy with the direction of the character, and a lot of the things that happen around him is not good. I don't think it's not good at all. So,
all right. So, but that we have to say has to go with the writing and the story, the direction of the story itself.
Sure.
Not necessarily him, but that's the character that he had to portray. And was there any other characters that you felt were not up to snuff?
Yeah. I mean, all of them. pretty much. Like I said, gore is the only exception to that. And, it's not really a spoiler. I don't think it's been mentioned that um, the Guardians of the Galaxy have a brief stint in the film, and that was all great. I thought that was good, but that's pretty much it. I thought that most of the other characters were not done too well. I mean, the performances were fine. I don't think the performances were wrong. It was the direction, it was the choices that were made, and choices that were made strictly for political reasons. That I think the theme that we meaning me and my wife when we get to go see it, the theme that we kept on going back to was cringe. There was a lot of cringe in this film, and it was not intentional cringe. It was it wasn't like The Office where that's kind of like what they're trying to go for. They're not intentionally being cringy, but it was pretty cringe.
Okay. All right. I like that. But I do have to say that one of my favorite Thor moments was his interaction with the Guardians.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I love that whole part.
I don't know. To me, yeah, we'll get into it we will get into that because anyway.
Okay. So we had cringe moments, which you probably saw more than me.
Okay.
Some things maybe I might have taken a little differently, but and I say that most of that is due to the writing of the story.
Yeah.
As an actor or actress, you have lines to tell and you have to portray the story that the director wants you to portray, right?
Sometimes.
What'd you think?
Well, I have to disagree on particularly Chris Hemsworth. He is listed as an executive producer of the film. And so you can, based on that, you actually do have a lot more say into the direction of how the film is. In fact, I believe that's the reason why some of the casting choices were made, which we'll get into after the spoiler marker. But yeah, so I don't necessarily I don't think you can put the blame squarely on Taika Waititi and his vision. I think there's a lot of blame to go around.
Okay. All right. Well, I do like that he did his character.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the way they started and everything.
Okay.
Not necessarily the way it ended, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
All right. So we've talked about the players, the story. Christian Bale, definitely a plus in this particular movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that women will have a different point of view than men. A lot of women, let's just say, because there was a lot of chick flick moments in there, I thought. Not necessarily.
I don't think a lot.
Well, there were enough things in there to make your mother say that she really enjoyed it. She thought it was a good film.
Yeah.
But when we went to lunch afterwards, I said, so good enough that you would watch it again? And she said, no, I don't think I'd watch it again. So it's like, well, you can't have it both ways,
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I have certain movies that I would could watch 3, 4, 5 times, 6 times.
Yeah.
The last one, the Multiverse of Madness, and this one.
Yeah.
I will watch them both when they come out on DVD one time because I've watched all my DVDs, so I will do that. But it's not one of the films that I would rewatch again and again and again.
Right. And Ragnarok is one of those films that I would.
Oh, absolutely.
So which is strange because, again, same director, very much similar cast, a couple differences, but
how many years are there between this film and that film?
Well, Ragnarok came out in 2017, so it's been 5 years.
Right, that's what I thought.
But if you, I think in MCU time, it's like more than that because there's a 5 year gap between Infinity War and Endgame. So yeah, I'm not sure what year technically it's supposed to be taking place in, but I don't think it's really relevant anyway.
Right, I'm just trying to guess.
Yeah.
As far as a director, if his views had changed somewhat, or
I don't think they have. I mean, if you watch another, a couple other of his films that aren't MCU films, it's very similar. So it's not like it's, any, I don't think it's different. I think that um, it's almost like a Quentin Tarantino thing where he has a particular style and he sticks to that style. Um, and, for better or for worse, it is what it is. But, for whatever reason, that style worked very well with Ragnarok and it worked very poorly in this film, in my opinion.
yeah, I would have to agree with that. Like I said, there were quite a few funny moments for me. Not really many spectacular fight scenes. I mean, there was a couple of really good ones, but
Yeah.
When it comes to Natalie Portman playing the character she played, just
Yeah.
I have a problem with it. But
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, we'll get into that. All right. So before we go into spoilers, let's just say, bottom line, do you recommend people going to see the film in the theaters? Yes or no?
For some of the spectacular stuff, yes, but there's not that much of it. That if you want to wait till it comes out on DVD, it's not that spectacular.
Yeah, I say skip it. This is not a good story. It's a very bad direction they're pulling Thor into, and yeah, it's not a good film. And like I said, this is in spite of how well Ragnarok is. This might be my least favorite Thor movie.
I'm just going to ask you that. Did it take the place of Dark World as the lowest?
It might for me. It really would.
Yes.
Dark World, it has a lot of problems to it, but those are problems that I think could have been solved. Well, I don't think I've ever gone through like the whole thing about my thing about Thor is that the first movie kind of set things up where they kind of had to logically follow some things that they probably shouldn't have in the second Thor movie, but they were kind of painted into a corner they couldn't really do
Right. They had to go in that direction.
And they also had to set up for Age of Ultron. So there's things that they had to do in the story that fed into that. So I get it. Same thing with Ragnarok. They had to do things that kind of fed into as a lead up to Infinity War. Same thing, but I think the difference there is that what made Ragnarok so special is that it was not, even though Thor is the main character, it's not really a Thor story. It's actually Planet Hulk, right?
Yes. Yes.
And we, what we have in Love and Thunder is strictly Thor universe. Like I said, you have a brief appearance of the Guardians, but that's it in the whole film. Everything else is kind of its own self-contained corner of the MCU, which I think and again, without going into spoilers, there is some introduction of some new stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But, by and large, because there's no more interaction with some of the other folks on those things, I think it really does suffer from that piece. It didn't have, the strange alchemy you get when you combine Doctor Strange and Wanda Maximoff, kind of like that stuff.
Right. Right. So would you say, in comparison, since we've seen both films, would you say Multiverse of Madness better than Thor?
Yeah, it is slightly better, okay. I think. Yeah, I'd have to say that.
Okay, and then my next question to you is, would the appearance of Beta Ray Bill made it any better?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Okay, so
I was expecting that.
Here's the thing. Okay, let's do this. Okay, this is the spoiler marker. We're going to go into spoilers now because I think that it could have saved the film.
Okay.
All right. So again, here be spoilers. You've been warned. There you go. All right. So,
right, but then again, we told you you didn't need to go to the movies to see it.
True.
You know, so
it, you know, obviously the big turn of events that happens here is, you know, Jane Foster. Yeah, this is I think the Mighty Thor storyline in 2014, 2016, somewhere around there.
Right.
In the comics where, you know, she has terminal cancer, the hammer gives her the power of Thor. There is precedent for this. Back in the 70s, there was a what if story. What if Jane Foster was the one to pick up the hammer as opposed to Donald Blake, who, you know, as you may or may not know, that was
the character, the Thor character.
Yeah, exactly, his alter ego. You know, it was later retconned that Odin put him in his mortal form as Donald Blake to test Thor, to teach him humility, right? That was kind of the idea behind it. But
yes,
in the, you know, in the what if story, Jane picks up, and I have to say that one issue, that what if, is really pretty cool, actually. The costume that they did for her, they didn't call her Thor, they called her Thordis, Thordis. I don't know, but you know, to me, I think that's better than what we got here. And you know, to me, I thought that what if story was actually pretty cool. But anyway, the comic that it was based off of, you know, Jane has terminal cancer like she does in the film, and the hammer is quote unquote saving her, but it's also killing her mortal form at the same time, so she has to make a choice. You know, very similar to that. To me, I think that was the wrong way to go. And I think the story could have been saved if Beta Ray Bill was introduced, because the storyline for Beta Ray Bill is that he is, you know, he's the race of Corbinites, and they're being, you know, wiped out by these, you know, space demons, and they genetically modified Bill to kind of be like the last hope, his super soldier, his, you know, their version of Thor, essentially. Yes. And he goes off into space to find a weapon to help fight the space demons. And he finds Mjolnir, he grabs Mjolnir, and then he has the power of Thor. And to me, you theoretically, you know, you could have introduced him at the beginning. He, you know, he crash lands on New Asgard. Mjolnir reacts to him. He gets the power of Thor. And then, you know, at the end of the day, funnily enough, is that in the comics, you know, he keeps the power of Thor, but then that's when they go on the quest to go to Nidavellir to get Stormbreaker, and Stormbreaker actually becomes Bill's weapon, which is, you know,
yes,
you could have made it work. I mean, that the story could have been saved that way. Instead, we got this, you know, you know, and it goes back to what I'm saying about how, you know, when it comes to other characters taking the mantle of a superhero, you know, they're still who they are. For instance,
yes,
Sam Wilson, when he becomes Captain America, does not change his name to Steve Rogers, right?
No.
And that's, you know, Thor is not just a superhero identity, he's an actual person. They're one and the same. You really can't separate them. And you know, doing it this way is really kind of, you know, to me, it's yeah, you know, it goes back to, I think you know,
it's kind of a purist thing, I think. Well, it's somewhat.
Maybe. I mean, Beta Ray Bill did assume the Thor armor and everything when he grabbed Mjolnir as well, but it worked okay. Like I said, they had a battle for it. You know, there's a whole thing. I'm not going to go into that because
but that's not part of the story.
I recommend going to read it. You know, read the comic arc by Walt Simonson. It is actually worth your time. It's amazing. It's the best Marvel story ever told, in my opinion.
Right, the artwork is really incredible in it too.
It is absolutely. And although in the Marvel Unlimited app, they recolor everything, which is kind of jarring.
Oh, that's yeah.
Anyway, but suffice to say, I think there's this, and we talked about this in a couple of other instances where there's an intentional emasculation happening to a lot of the heroes in the MCU, and they are trying to have women assume it. Some critics are using the term MCU, which is I don't necessarily hold to that per se, because sometimes it works well. For instance, Hawkeye, I think Kate Bishop is the perfect person.
Oh yes, definitely.
It's not forced. It works. It's wholesome. It's good. There's nothing wrong with that. So when it's done well, I have no problem with it. It's when it's done in a really, in a way that dishonors the original character, I have a problem with that. And Thor, they've been emasculating him since pretty much, I'd say the end of Infinity War, but really throughout Endgame. It was
right. It was definitely Endgames, and we did get the moment at the beginning of this, where he got buff again, and actually Watiti's telling the story, as his character,
right?
Which to me, you could also call this multiverse of madness, because we had the mighty Thor, we had Dr. Jane Fonda, Jane Foster, we had Jodie Foster, we had Jane Fonda. It was kind of funny in some ways.
And that's the other thing that I'll say, is that a lot of the humor, that things that were supposed to be made humorous, I didn't laugh at. I didn't find it that funny. Maybe a chuckle here or there, but most of the humor did not land for me. Particularly the way that they treat the weapons in this film is really stupid to me. Like they're some sort of sentient animal thing where there's jealousy and stuff like that. I thought that was really stupid.
Yes, and I making Mjolnir break into pieces and attack a bunch of different things at the same time.
I mean, that was fine. I didn't care about that so much. But to me, it's like, the fact that Stormbreaker has jealousy was really stupid.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then I thought that the way that they treated the gods in this, because Christian Bale, I guess he's called the God Killer.
God Slayer,
or something like God Slayer.
Or God Butcher. I think God Butcher might be the original story, which, by the way, is actually a pretty cool arc. It's called Thor God of Thunder, is the storyline in the comics, which Gore is introduced, and it's actually pretty interesting. That story is actually taken, it's just told from 3 different perspectives, where you have young Thor, who wasn't yet worthy of Mjolnir, modern day Thor, which is kind of like a member of the Avengers or whatever, and then you have old Thor, which is king. He's a king of Asgard, giant white beard, missing an eye, just like Odin, and he's like the last of the Asgardians. So that was a pretty cool comic arc. But Gore is, one of the things is that he's very sympathetic as a villain. We get the beginning, it's really, really rough, that he's like the last of his people, and loses his daughter very tragically, and he finally stumbles upon the god that he was like worshiping, and the god was completely capricious, and so he gets imbued with the necrosword and ends up slaying him. And because he kind of universalizes that god being capricious and not really caring about their worshipers, he thinks all gods are like that, and so he goes on this quest to butcher them all. And that's kind of the whole main part of the story, which I think actually that is a very interesting part of the story, and it's good motivation for Gore, is that he just thinks that all gods are this way, and we know that Thor isn't like that. But then they go to Omnipotent City, and pretty much they're all like that.
Yes, I know. Which another thing, Russell Crowe speaking Italian. That was
No, it's Greek.
or Greek, whatever. But
It's a Greek accent. Yeah.
it was still pretty funny.
Yeah. In fact, if you look at the credits, they actually had a credit for the dialect coach for Mr. Crow and Miss Thompson. So Tessa Thompson as well. She's American, not British. Which that's the other thing that confused me, because it totally makes sense that Zeus would have a Greek accent. He's a Greek god. Totally get it, right?
Right.
As Guardians, they have English accents, but should they have Norwegian accents?
Exactly. I would think,
There's a reason for that. It's 3 letters or 3 words, Sir Kenneth Branagh. That's the reason why they all have English accents. And quite frankly, he needs to come back and actually fix this ship. I think he needs to write the ship. Only he can fix it.
Well, hopefully so. Well, that was the thing that that was a part that I thoroughly liked, because, they have so many gods from all over the universes and everything. And the portrayal is that none of those gods really care about anybody,
Which is, I think is probably the biggest spiritual message that the movie offers, is that, it reminds me of, I think it's Isaiah, maybe 42. I don't remember. It's Isaiah 9. It's the script, the headering in the ESV version is the trial of the false gods, where he talks about, hey, you take this log of wood, half of it you chop up and you use it for fuel, for fire, whatever. The other half you carve out something to worship it. And you have the God who is over your people, who is the maker of that log, maker of all those things. And so to me, what I see is that omnipotence is, there's still a God above that. And it just shows how weak these little gods are, right? It's like, to me, I think that's really what it really does point to, is that all of those other little gods that we could put our hope and trust into to take care of us, it's like they're not going to be able to do it, and most of the time they don't even care.
Exactly. And it's like the first one that we came to, where he said, well, there are no more people left to worship you, because and he was like, well, hey, they'll be there, someone will start worshiping me, like, and we know there is only one omnipotent God,
right.
And I thought all about that when that was happening,
right.
And it was like, oh man, every one of these guys they're all lowercase g,
yeah, of course,
and I think they made a good portrayal of all that lowercase g stuff,
yeah.
So that I enjoyed most of that part, and him grabbing the bolt of lightning and going right through Zeus's heart, and then he's okay later on, but I thought they could have done without the nude scene.
Yeah, that's the other thing about it. Like, they are literally trying to rob Thor of his dignity.
Yes,
throughout
humiliation.
The film, and they're literally doing that in that scene. It's just a perfect example of the movie, of what's happening.
Oh yes, and that ain't the only time,
right.
And that's part of the downer of this film. Like I said, there were some funny spots in it. I did like the special effects. The only special effects I really didn't care for was the very first God, all the flowers and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine.
I mean, it was okay, but I thought it was kind of cheesy,
Yeah, that's fair.
But the planets and the scenery and everything that did special effects wise, was done real well. Stormbreaker making the bridge. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, that was very
and
cool.
I love the goats.
Yeah, yeah, and the goats actually are again another part of the comics. In fact, those two goats pull a chariot where Bill, again going back to the Beta Ray Bill arc, they actually use the chariots to fight the space demons and everything, and it's him and Sif against all those space demons together. It's actually one of the coolest comics ever. So yeah, that was, the goats were the only real thing that made me genuinely laugh. That was that was pretty funny.
Hilarious. And of course your mother, she goes, what were those characters that were pulling the ship? So they're goats.
Yeah,
goats don't sound like that. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Lady Sif, because we did get a short stint with her.
She came back.
Wasn't very long, but we did have her for a little bit there,
Yeah.
So Jane fighting with Thor as Thor, and we had that scene with her with the real good Thor costume that I like, with the helmet and everything. And then they have to Chris Hemsworth's costume has to be just a little bit bigger, the helmet a little bit,
No, I actually love that armor. It's indicative of
really cool,
the armor that he has in towards the end of Walt Simonson's arc.
Yes,
very cool. So that was one thing I will say as a positive, is that it was really well done.
Yes, and if I could have a Thor shirt, for my collection of shirts, that would be the one I'd want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that is just so cool. I don't know if you could tell I got a new Flash shirt, but I've been looking for this for the longest time. So
okay,
now I finally got it. I'm happy about it. And I don't know if you noticed that when they had the previews before, I guess Super Pets is next.
Yeah.
And then Black Adam.
Yeah, we saw the preview for Black Adam as well.
Did you also see the one for Shazam? In December, there's going to be the second Shazam movie.
Already? Wow. That's okay, cool.
Yes. Which I think you probably would like. I'm interested. Yeah. I think The Rock will do well in Black Adam, but
we'll see.
I kind of missed that there was supposed to be a Flash and another Aquaman movie that came out this year, but not so much.
Right.
The next Marvel movie. Do you know what the next Marvel movie is that's coming out?
Yes, Wakanda Forever, 11/11.
Okay, so I guess we can look forward to that and hope that will be better than this.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything from it. There was some promotional art released, and since we're in the spoiler part, it's okay. Namor and the Atlanteans are actually going to be in that film, and
I would love that.
Yeah, their costume design is almost like Aztec. It's interesting, so that's another thing to look out for.
Well, that'll be great. Yes, I'll definitely look forward to that. Well, I think we've talked a lot about this particular movie.
Yeah.
At the end, we've got we have two, I guess you would call them teasers, or one teaser and one maybe conclusion to the story at the very end.
All right.
But we did get at the end of it that Thor will be back.
That's what they said. But the thing that gets me is, like, which Thor are they talking about?
Well, I think that it would have to be the Chris Hemsworth one, based on the fact that Dr. Foster went to Valhalla at the very end.
Right.
So Valhalla is where you go when you die when in battle, right?
Right.
So I would think that means that's it for her, but maybe. But we did get Zeus with a big hole in his chest wanting to send Hercules after Thor.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a good story.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, there's lots of precedent for that with Hercules versus Thor. That's normal thing. So
yes, and I think that could be something special.
Sure.
Like you said, this could have been a lot different.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
So I'm going to hold out that maybe they, like we had the first Thor, and he was, selfish and not worthy.
Yeah.
And we saw his character arc, and then
mm-hmm.
it changed to the point of him falling down the gutter.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems to me like he's trying to get back to his ways of being, the mighty Thor, I think. How did you feel about the way that it ended with the little girl?
That part is fine. I didn't have a problem with that. Remember when I mentioned that, the fact that he was executive producer, Chris Hemsworth, that had something to do with the casting choices. The little girl is his daughter, his actual daughter in real life. So I think that's, had something to do with it. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that part per se. What gets me is the fact that they're on some, nondescript planet. They're in some sort of space Winnebago, and they're fighting, for these little creature things or whatever.
Right, who are being attacked by others.
Yeah.
And he's teaching her. We get this opinion that, or this thought that she's going to school.
Right, yeah.
And that's the school she's going to.
Yeah,
don't hurt the little ones.
And in some way, I think that there's actually, I think, a lot of value to that. I think kids do need to see, part of their education is seeing how their fathers work and what they do, so I think that there actually is some value in that. But the problem that I have is that, Thor, or Asgard, new Asgard, as it's now known, has a false king, and they've had a false king, and that false king is completely inept at running the place.
Yes, which she admitted that she couldn't really do it.
Right. And the fact that she is a she and calling herself a king is the other thing that is like,
right. She should be calling herself a queen if she's going to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Queen Regent. There's plenty of other titles that you can use for that. But obviously, again, Marvel is, or, Disney is more concerned about pushing things that eliminate gender in any meaningful context, and it's really cringy. Again, retconning Korg's family structure is super cringe, because in Ragnarok he clearly told us that the only people that showed up to the revolution was his mom and her boyfriend, who he hates.
Yes.
And now apparently, there are no mothers in Krogan reproduction.
Right. And that's, I guess, if you wanted to rewrite a species and use that as that fact, then
yeah, it's fine. But that's not, obviously they did it for political reasons, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I know. And a cringe moment.
Super cringe. And that's all there is to it. I mean, it's to me, it's like that. The other thing is when we got a scene of the Asgardian actors replaying the events of Ragnarok.
Yes.
Well, the thing, I didn't like it, because the other actors that previously portrayed Odin and Loki and Thor, that was perfectly fine. But when they casted Melissa McCarthy as Hela, that to me was so stupid, because what makes the scene funny is that the actors that they got were at least sort of like
the characters,
like the poor man's version of Chris Hemsworth, the poor man's version of Tom Hiddleston, the poor man's version of Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yes,
they're Melissa McCarthy's the exact opposite of
right. If they would have got somebody better to portray that part,
at least just somebody that's just off just a little bit,
right.
It's like they did it for comedic effect, and to me, it's like, why are you doing this? I mean, it's.
I loved it until she came in to the part.
I mean, yeah, I think the way
it
they
was
did
okay, but it was
like,
terrible.
You wanted to get somebody who's like a, poor man's version of Kate Blanchett. You don't want to get
Yes.
somebody that's the exact opposite of Kate Blanchett.
Yes, definitely. But I thought it was done really well up until then. I loved how they threw the gold things in the air,
Or my favorite was the hammer sliding on the string and everything.
Oh yeah, yes.
That was cute.
Yeah. So I mean, there were some funny stuff. There was some funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
But there was some very awful stuff also.
Right.
It's one of those things. Like I said, I will buy it when it comes out on DVD.
Yeah.
And I'll watch it just to make sure that the DVD plays well.
Yeah.
And if it has some special feature, I might be interested in seeing some of them.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think that this was mostly driven by Disney and not Marvel, maybe. But since they own Marvel,
yeah, they're kind of one and the same now, anyway. I mean, I don't know. To me, and this is the saddest part of the film for me, is that it's the scene where after Gore captures all the Asgardian children and takes them away, and the town is in chaos. Everybody's freaking out. They're at the city hall. They're all clamoring for whatever, and Valkyrie's trying to get some order, and all Thor has to do is just
open his mouth,
speak in a measured tone, just saying Asgardians, and he addresses them, and the entire room just sucks, all the air sucks out of the room. It goes straight, that energy gets directed towards the rightful king of Asgard.
Yes.
And what does he do at the end? He goes, he leaves them again.
Yes.
To me, I think that is actually the saddest part of the entire film, is that, here is a man who is supposed to resume his rightful place among his people, and he abandons them again.
Right. He's not ready to do it, I guess. I don't know.
At the very least, what they could have done to save that is they could have introduced Balder the Brave, and Balder coming up and actually taking the reins, because he does do that in the Walt Simonson run. Balder the Brave becomes the new king after Odin dies. So
right,
it could happen.
I mean, it could have happened.
And I did hear from the costume designer that they did, they had concepts for Balder, but they never introduced him. So another wasted opportunity.
Yes. But how many can we count all the wasted opportunities in this film? I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, when I get it on DVD, I can pause it and write down how many wasted opportunities.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think that you could take the bones of this film and make a really good movie. I think the same thing about Thor: The Dark World. You could do the same thing. It has the bones of a good story, as long as you could have, rewritten some of the things in there. It would have been good. And the last thing that I'll say about this film that is sorely missing is Tom Hiddleston. I mean,
yes,
he should have came back. I get that he has his own TV series now, but there should have been something that clued us into Loki up to his old tricks again. I'm almost to the point where it's like I want to believe.
You expect it.
Oh, I want to believe that Thor is actually Loki. That would actually make it feel a little bit better for me. But yeah.
Well, I guess that would justify some of his actions and stuff.
Yeah,
because
completely.
Those are, a lot of them are more Loki actions than they are really Thor actions.
My point exactly.
Yeah, so I guess that could go over real well.
Yeah. So maybe my headcanon, that's what it is. So it's not Thor that they're emasculating, it's actually Loki as Thor.
Then it would be acceptable then, right?
I guess.
Oh well, anyways. Okay, so for all of us here, we will, when it comes out on DVD, we will delve into a lot of the particulars
sure
on this, and
Definitely.
you know, I think. Plus, I think that this was our first impressions. We saw it one time,
Right.
And there was a lot of things that, by not the cringe moments that we might have missed, there might have been something good just before that cringe or after it.
Could be.
So, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think you're right, because as we are going to talk about the phase 4 movies a little bit later on that were released in 2021, I think that we're going to have, I'm going back and looking at some of the things I thought about some of those movies. I think on further review, I have a little bit of a different opinion about them. So,
yes, because everything that we've done from 2021 on has been first impressions. We haven't really delved deeply into a lot of them. Yeah. But although I feel like we gave this one a lot of time.
Yeah.
More than I thought we were going to do.
Yeah.
So it's we had a lot of good things to say about it. That good things for us, but not for the movie.
Right.
Yeah. So for us, you could wait till it comes out on DVD.
Sure.
Unless you really, really want to go see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
So we've gave you our opinion. Let us know yours if you've seen it.
Yep.
Or if you're going to see it.
Yep.
We'd love to hear from you.
Sure. All right, let's wrap it up there then. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We'll probably do our wrap up of Ms. Marvel. And until then, goodbye and God bless.
Goodbye, God bless, and tell your friends.